Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing my 10 cards using Love from Lizi's October 2018 card kit. It is a gorgeous autumn themed kit and I had so much fun using it. For card number 1, I'm using a sketch from Freshly Made Sketches, number 95. Most people know I'm a huge fan of using card sketches, and I also like to use a lot of matted layers. So I do include some extra cardstock for my 10 cards. So just to save on time, I've already cut out all of those sketch pieces. So now I'm going to add this piece of chevron ribbon across that part of my card. So I'm adhering it with some score tape. And this ribbon is really pretty. It has a nice copper woven in thread. I wrapped the ends of the ribbon around to the back of the card front and then just adhered it in place with some score tape. So now I'm going to use one of the sentiments that comes in the kit. There's all these really fun fall sentiments with a lovely script. So I decided I wanted to emboss it, so I'm just using some Versamark ink, and I wanted to make sure I got a good stamped impression, so I used my Mini Misty. And the embossing powder is from Love from Lizi, and it's the Golden Crown, which is just this really pretty gold color, and I love her powders because they're really fine, so you get a nice detailed look when you emboss. And we can never have too much shine on our cards after all. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that sentiment onto the card just with some foam tape, just to add a little bit of dimension. And before I add any other embellishments to the card, I'm just going to put that card front onto a card base. And I always use white card bases. It's a nice heavyweight cardstock and it can hold up to all the layers I like to add on my cards. I used some of the pearlescent paper and the maple leaf die that's included in the kit for these leaves, and these are just beautiful. They have a nice embossed look to them, so that just adds a real nice detail. I used the antique gold paper for one of the leaves and then the pearlescent brown for the other leaf. So just one final touch, I'm adding just a few of the bling that come in the kit. And these are self-adhesive, but I like to add some extra glue just to make sure they're going to stay in place. And that is card number 1. For card number 2, I used some gold shimmer spray, and I'm just kind of spritzing it all over this leaf that's made out of tree bark, just to add some really pretty shine to it. And now I'm going to start with the card while I let that leaf dry. So I used a piece of this gold pearlescent paper for the background, and then there are 5 little tiny leaf stamps included in the set. So I just put them randomly onto an acrylic block, and then I'm just kind of rotating them and stamping them just real subtle onto the background. I pulled out a few of the beautiful ribbons that come in the pack. This purple ribbon, it's about 1.5 inches wide, and it's just lovely. So once again, I'm just going to use some score tape to hold those ribbons down. And I'm going to layer the one on top, just to kind of add a little more detail. And my background layer is the dark brown cardstock that comes in the kit. So it's like a cream ribbon with brown stripes. It just coordinates well together. So again, I just tucked those loose ends of the ribbon around back and held them down with some score tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere that card front onto the card base. And I used a lot of adhesive. I like to make sure my cards stay put. And then I felt like there were a few gaps, so I just added one more of the little leaf stamps randomly on there. So now my tree bark leaf is all dry, and it's so pretty, lots of gold shine on there. And I wasn't sure at first how to adhere it down, so I decided to try some glue dots, and that seemed to do the trick. The sentiment piece is part of the ephemera pack, and it's really pretty. It has like a purple border that goes around that matches well with the ribbon. But it was a little too big, so I sort of trimmed the end of it and then fishtailed the other end. And then I was just trying to figure out where to place it, and I just kind of liked it tucked kind of right behind that leaf. And now just for a finishing touch, I pulled out some of the sequins And the Love from Lizi sequins always have a really nice variety of colors and sizes. And so this card, I'm only using the gold. So it has sort of a medium size and then the larger size. And that is card number 2. For card number 3, I used another sketch from Freshly Made Sketches. This one is $2.89. For the background, I used the embossing folder that comes in the kit, and it makes this beautiful detail. It kind of looks like a knitted sweater. And then for the sentiment, this is one of the cut-aparts that comes on one of the 12 by 12 sheets. And it was actually a 4 by 3 size, but I went and cut it down to a square size using just a stitch die. And then because, you know, all cards need a little bit of shine, I'm adding a few of these lovely mirror copper peel-offs just to the bottom of the card. I wasn't sure if these peel-offs would stay in place with that embossed paper, but they haven't moved at all, so I'm happy. I'm just going ahead and putting that card front onto a card base. And this is a fairly simple card, but with the beautiful embossed background, it's definitely not lacking for any detail. So I did decide to pop that sentiment on some foam tape. And then I pulled out all of the leaf ephemera that comes in the kit. So I found 5 different leaves. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to place them on the card. I'm sort of following the sketch with those 3 flowers, but I want to do it with the leaves. As you can see, I can't quite figure out where I want them for a while. But then once I'm happy, I decided I'm going to pop some of those up also with some foam tape. There is a lot of ephemera that's included, so lots of sentiments, lots of fun images, all fall related. It's really pretty. So now that I have those leaves in place, I'm just going to add that one final touch using some more of the sequins. And this time I'm sticking with just that copper color. So there's the larger size, and then there's these little tiny ones. And so once again, I'm trying to figure out where I want to put them, and I decided to just put 3 little tiny ones down at the bottom. And I always use Ranger's Multimedia Matte for adhesive for all the sequins. It just holds really well. And that is card number 3. For card number 4, I'm using sketch number 287 from Sweet Sunday. Now, if you saw my September 10 card video, I actually used this same sketch, and I loved it so much I decided I'm going to use it again. So even if you use the same sketch, you can still have a very different look. So my background paper is the back side of one of the 12 by 12 pieces, and that really pretty flower paper is one of the 6 by 6 sheets. For that strip across the bottom, I used one of the orange pearlescent papers, and I had cut it just a little too short at first, so I did have to cut another piece, but no worries, it will not go to waste. And then just across the middle of that orange piece, I'm using some of this really pretty sort of sparkly orange ribbon. And then it needed a little more shine, so I'm adding just a couple of the copper peel-offs, just a little thin one over the top of the ribbon and one right below it. This isn't a color combination I've ever used before, but I really like that sort of a burgundy maroon with the orange and the pink. It's really lovely. So now I'm going to go ahead and put that card front onto a card base using lots of adhesive again. And then I pulled out just a few of the floral ephemera pieces that come in the kit. And then I wanted to pop those up, so I'm using some foam dimensional tape. And I'm just trimming the foam tape just to make sure that none of the ends of the ephemera kind of droop down. And then I used another piece of the ephemera. This one has the sentiment, "Hello, beautiful, glorious fall." Fall is definitely my favorite season. So I think this is one of my favorite cards from the whole 10 cards that I made. And then just kind of my little trademark, I made a little banner just to put in that upper left-hand corner. And then just one final touch, I'm using the orange Nuvo drops, just putting little tiny ones around that circle element and then a few on the flowers. And that is card number 4. For card number 5, I'm using Sweet Sunday sketch number 232. The acorn paper and that orange polka dot paper are both part of the 6x6 papers that come in the kit, and then I'm using some more of this gold pearlescent paper just for that rectangular piece in the background. So for the sentiment on this card, I used another one of the ephemera pieces, just kind of this little flag that says autumn, and then some of that orange pearlescent paper that I miscut on the previous card I used for this little banner. And then there's this piece of craft twine that comes in the kit, so I just wrapped that around kind of the bottom third of the card and adhered it with some of the score tape. And then I pulled out some of these really pretty silk leaves and one of these little wood pieces that comes in the kit. It's like a branch that sort of got sliced. I wasn't really sure what to do with it, but I decided I could stamp on it. So I used one of the little sunflowers that comes on one of the sentiment stamps, and I only inked up the sunflower because I didn't want the sentiment. And I was surprised it stamps very nicely onto wood. So I'm just adhering all of that down with some glue dots, and then I decided it needs a bow, so I'm just using some more of that twine and putting a bow on there, and then I'm just kind of fussing with it, trying to figure out how I'm going to place all that together. It's definitely a very bulky card, so this will not be going in the mail. One thing I really like about Love from Lizi's kits is that they challenge me to go outside my comfort zone, which is great. I really like how this card turned out, even though I would have never thought to put a chunk of tree on a card before. And now I'm just going to put that card front onto a card base, and I probably should have done that before I added all those thick embellishments. But no worries, I just put the adhesive on the card base instead. And then just one final touch, I'm just adding some more of the lovely sequins that come in the pack. And these are, I guess this is like a brown sort of coppery color. And that is card number 5. So now I'm on to card number 6. This is sketch number 484 from Mojo Monday. Both of the papers are from the 6x6 paper that comes in the collection. And I did go ahead and round the corners on the bottom of the main piece and then also that smaller piece, just to add a little bit of softness to it. So this burgundy cardstock is some that I added just because it coordinated so well with the kit. And then I'm putting a piece of this orange sparkly ribbon right down the center of that stripe. And then just adhering it all to the back, once again with some score tape just to hold all those ends in place. And then I pulled out some more of the ephemera pieces. So one of the floral bouquets and then a few of the hearts. I added some foam dimensional tape to the back of that floral piece. But for the hearts, I'm not going to pop them up at all. I'm just going to leave them flat, so I'm just using some regular ATG. And I'm kind of following that same pattern that's in the sketch, kind of like the little hearts flying up. So I was going to go ahead and put that card front onto a card base, and I made sure to round the corners so that it all matches. And then I decided not to put a sentiment on the outside, so I'm going to put it on the inside. And so just to decorate the inside of the card, which I usually do, just a little thin strip of some of the pattern paper. I just kind of put that on the bottom of the inside and then just added one of the autumn sentiments. And then of course just needed some more sequins to kind of go along with those hearts that are just sort of floating upward. Just using random colors since there's such a nice variety in the sequin packs. This is definitely one of my simpler cards, but I just love all of the color on it. So that is card number 6. For card number 7, I'm using Mojo Monday's sketch number 478. For the background of my card, this pink paper is that back side of one of the cut apart sheets. And then I just have this little strip of that really pretty orange and pink plaid. And then rather than add any cardstock layers to kind of divide that strip, I just used one of the copper mirror peel-offs. I used the inside of one of the cut aparts for that circle to use for the sentiment. And then I cut the scalloped circle out of that brown background layer. So I always like to add this matted layer around most of my card pieces, but on this piece I didn't like the one side of the brown, so I just trimmed it off. So I'm using one of the stamps in the set. I love all the pretty fall sentiments that it includes. And then just to make sure I get a good stamped impression, I'm using my mini Misty, and since I already cut out that circle, I just taped it right back in place. That way when I re-ink it, I get a really good stamped impression. So I'm just going to go ahead and use some foam dimensional tape to adhere these to the card. And then I'm just going to put that card front onto a card base, and then rounding the one corner. I always feel like a rounded corner adds a little more softness to a card, making it a little more feminine. And then I cut out another one of the pretty maple leaves. And then just that final touch, I'm going to add some more of the sequins, just kind of sprinkled all around that pretty fall leaf. I love how some of the sequin colors match perfectly with the mirror copper peel-offs. And then of course it adds a lot of beautiful shine. So that is card number 7. Now I'm on to card number 8. The sketch is number 30 from Operation Ride Home. So for the background piece, this is one of the 6x6 papers, and then I used one of the cut aparts. It just says Autumn, and I did trim it down just slightly because it was a 4x3 size, which was just a little too big for this sketch. So then I pulled out this purple ribbon again, and just put down some score tape to adhere it down. And this was another color combination I just wasn't sure about, but I just love how beautiful it all goes together, that orange and that deep purple. So I did use a little scrap of one of the gold pearlescent papers just for that little side piece. It adds some nice shimmer to the card. And that's why I never get rid of any of those little tiny pieces, especially of that specialty paper. I think that specialty paper is my favorite. So now I'm just adding a little bit of the ephemera. This is just like a little, like a cotton bouquet. And then just a little final touch, a few of those copper sequins, just kind of sprinkling them around the card. So that is card number 8. For card number 9, I added some gold shimmer spray to that light yellow cream cardstock that comes in the kit. And the sketch I'm using is Sweet Sunday sketch number 292. So this spray added just this really lovely gold shimmer on the cardstock. And since it's not quite dry, I'm just letting it sit there while I work on some of the rest of the card. So I'm making a shaker card, and I used the maple leaf die for the little cutout window for the shaker. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start building that little shaker component. So I put the acetate on the back of the window, and now I'm just building up the layers using some foam dimensional tape. And I'm cutting fairly small pieces of that foam tape just to go around the detail of that cutout leaf. And then of course I need 2 layers just so there's enough room for the sequins to shake around. And I'm just making sure all of the foam tape touches, so if there's any little gaps I just add a teeny little piece in there. And then I'm just going to dump that sequin mix onto the little background circle that I cut out, and then place that top piece right over it. And then just pushing down nicely on that foam just to make sure I have a good seal. So now that cardstock seems to be dry, but since I did get it wet, it sort of curled up a little bit, so I'm just going to use some score tape to make sure that it lays nice and flat onto the card. And then one of the backers on this score tape did not want to come off. It was a little struggle to remove it. So I've layered all of the pieces with just some brown cardstock. So for that brown stripe that goes across the center of the card, I decided it needed just a little more shine. So I pulled out the copper peel-offs, and I'm using 2 different widths. Like the wider ones are on the outside, and then I used a thinner piece right between the 2. And then it matches really well with the sequins that are inside that shaker component. And then I just use some ATG to adhere that to the card. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere that shaker component, and I decided I would use a little bit of score tape just because I wanted to make sure it didn't fall off. And score tape is really sticky. And once again, I probably should have adhered that card front onto the card base already, but I didn't, and unfortunately it went on crooked. So I'm just sort of trimming off the little excess, and after I finished the card I actually decided to pull it off completely and put it on a new card base. And that is card number 9. For card number 10, I'm using Mojo Monday sketch number 456. So I really love this little fox cut apart that comes on the 12 by 12 paper. So I knew I was going to use it for that little circle element. And then this background paper is some of the gold mirror paper, so it's super shiny. The little fox image is slightly bigger than that circle die, and I didn't want to trim off his ear, so instead I actually went and trimmed out the one ear and just stuck it outside of the die, so when I cut it we didn't lose any of his ear. And I'm just layering on some of that burgundy cardstock. I'm just going to put that card front onto a card base. For this sentiment I used one of the ephemera pieces. So this is a fun little banner that says "Happy Fall, y'all." And I wanted it to pop just a little bit more, so I just glued it onto a piece of that burgundy cardstock and then just trimmed it out. And then I'm popping it up with some foam dimensional tape. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to place it. And then just a final finishing touch, I'm going to use some more of the beautiful sequins that come in the pack. And this I'm definitely following the sketch by putting those 3 in the bottom right hand corner and then the 2 in the upper left hand corner. And then I decided I needed just a little bit more, so I added some of the little Nuvo drops. First I was just putting it on the flowers, and then I decided to just go all the way around the little fox. So that is card number 10. So here is just a quick recap of the 10 cards I made using Love from Lizi's October 2018 card kit. So here's everything that I have left over from the kit. So I have 1 full sheet of cardstock and a bunch of scraps, including some of the specialty paper. And then the 12 by 12 paper, I still have quite a bit, a lot of the cut apart. And then the 6 by 6 paper, I have 1 full sheet and then lots of scraps. Still lots of the ephemera. Quite a bit of ribbon still left over. This ribbon is so pretty. peel-offs, more of the sequins. We have 5 of the wood pieces left. 3 more of the little silk leaves. We have more of the bark leaves. And Nuvo drops. We have most of the bling left. And then of course the dies, the stamp set, the embossing folder. So still lots left to make more cards. The Love from Lizi kits sell out very quickly, so if you are interested in purchasing one, don't wait. I have provided a link to the kit in the description. I also included links if you are interested in subscribing to the monthly Love from Lizi kits. There are also a bunch of coordinating add-ons available for purchase. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.